I'm sure you're already familiar with the distance and midpoint formulas, so what I want to do in this video is kind of explain where the distance formula comes from and show you how it relates to the Pythagorean theorem. Let's pretend we have a graph of the first quadrant here, and we have 2 points which I'm arbitrarily going to place in the first quadrant that we want to find the distance between. Basically, we want this distance between these 2 points, which I will label with D. The first thing I want to do is identify the location of these points. This first point will be called x1, y1, and you can probably guess it. The second point will be called x2, y2. Now, the Cartesian coordinate system is based upon right angles because the x-axis and the y-axis are perpendicular to each other. And based upon this idea, we can draw a right triangle here, which I will label with that little square in the corner, and the Pythagorean theorem is going to apply. Now, the first thing we need to do is identify the length of each of these sides. Notice if this were to go from 6 to 10, we'd say that this is 4 units long, and that is found by going 10 minus 6. Well, in this case, it's x2 minus x1, and that right there will be the base of this triangle. By like reasoning, the height of this triangle is going to be y2 minus y1. And we can then apply the Pythagorean theorem here. You are used to a squared minus b squared is c squared. I'm going to write this as c squared is equal to a squared minus b squared. And I'm going to change out the c squared for our distance d, make that d squared, and that will be x sub 2 minus x sub 1 quantity squared plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 quantity squared. To get to the distance formula, all you need to do then is square root each side, and then you will have your distance formula as I have it typed up above. Now, when it comes to finding the distance and the midpoint between 2 points, I find it easier to use the Pythagorean theorem than to use that formula. For example, let's start with the midpoint. The midpoint is just the average of the x's and the average of the y's. So the x values are 3 and negative 4. So we will have 3 plus negative 4, add them up and divide by 2, comma, the average of the y's, which will be 6 plus negative 1, add them up, divide by 2. When you do the arithmetic, you then have negative 1/2, comma, 5/2 as the midpoint of the line segment joining these 2 points. When it comes to the distance formula between these 2 points, I, instead of going straight to the formula, like to sometimes draw a real quick picture. Here we go. Our first point is located at 3, 6, so 3 to the right and 6 up. And the second point is at negative 4, negative 1 right there. So it's almost as if we have a right triangle here. To go from 3 to negative 4, here's 3 on the right, negative 4 on the left, this base is 7 units. And to go from a height of negative 1 up to a height of 6, that is a height of 7. So we are going to have 7 squared plus 7 squared equals our distance squared by the Pythagorean theorem. This is 49 plus 49 equals d squared, and d will equal the square root of 48. D squared equals 98, and d equals 7 root 2. And if you remember your 45, 45, 90 triangles from your geometry or trig class, you would know that this is a 7, 7, 7 root 2 special triangle.